Hello folks. I realize we haven't harvested anything together yet, and I'm just out here harvesting a second round of spruce chips, and I thought I would tell you a little bit about that. I have some company harvesting my grass here. We've had some very intense thunderstorms the last couple days and got maybe an inch of rain yesterday in half an hour. There was a lot of water. But it's been a dry spring, so that was good. And I was standing out here, and I think the lightning probably hit, wasn't very far that way. I've never been so close to a lightning strike. But we survived it. The dogs and I went inside and hung out together and calmed each other down while the storm shook the house and rattled all the dishes on the counters. And now it's a new day with some harvesting that needs to be done. So spruce chips are just the end part of a brand new bud in the spring from a spruce tree. So these here along my outer fence are all spruce trees. And that angle makes them look really huge. Not this little one close by, that's an oak, but these are all spruce trees. They're 10 meters tall or so. Some nice cones on them. Up at the top that you won't be able to see. These are the pollen cones, these light orange ones. And up higher, there are black ones. I don't know if you can see them against the sky. Those are the female cones that'll produce seeds. And lower down here are the orange pollen cones. But today we're harvesting the buds. And if you don't know that much about how plants grow, what happens is that they form buds. And the buds overwinter. So they grow in a mount in the summer. And then on the sides of the branches, they'll grow little buds. And then in the spring, the buds just explode. They have basically all the cells for a baby branch in them. And they're tightly packed away inside these little bud coatings, and they have lots of antifreeze in them, lots of sugar and resin and things like that to keep them from freezing. And in the spring, the plant takes all those, basically they're deflated cells that it's made, and it just pumps in sap, so it pumps in water, and the branch then extends into a long branch. Some of them you can see are quite long. And in some tree species, it can then grow more new cells from the end, and in some it can just expand the ones that it grew last year and tuck them away into that bud, and it won't grow any extra ones. So, right when those buds open up, they're very soft. You can see how soft and bendy this is here compared to the branch. This is the branch from the year before that, which is not very bendy, and it's brown and hard. When you pull this off, it comes off easily. It's not hard to get off at all. And the end is very green all the way inside of it. There's no brown branch part. So to pick spruce chips, you want them ideally when they look about like this, when they maybe have a little bit of this bud left on the end, but you don't want to eat that part, so you just pick it, flip it off, and then you have your spruce chip. And you can see here that there are a couple different ages. This one is little, it's still kind of curled up, and this one here is bigger, but it's still very soft. But all of those will work for what I'm doing. What I'm doing is making flavored syrup or sugar out of it to put in my tea. It makes a surprisingly floral taste. Like it tastes like all sorts of kinds of citrus and a little bit like roses. It's neat. It doesn't taste like pine trees, which is what you would expect. Because spruce is not a pine tree, but it's an evergreen. But the thing that I've been thinking is super neat is that I have, let's see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 8 different spruce trees here. And as I came out to pick them, I noticed that I had picked last weekend, and I had picked, I believe, from this tree. So you can see these are like quite long right now. And I was worried that if I didn't come out and pick today, that it would be too late and these would be too big and they wouldn't have a good flavor anymore. And so the season would be over and I wouldn't have picked enough. If we walk over here, you can see that this one also has some like very long spruce tips. They've been out for a while. It's been open for a while. So it thought it was spring a while ago, started to open its buds. I picked some last weekend, and it's kept on growing. But when I came out here, I noticed that this tree over here was just beginning to open out. See how like the buds are still almost all covered? Those aren't even ready to pick yet. Not really. I picked a couple of them. You kind of pull these off. Well, they're still pretty tight. Yeah, I wouldn't normally pick these. They would be tasty if you wanted to pickle them or something like that. They'd be very soft. But they're not usually, for the syrup, you don't really need them to be completely soft. So I would wait just a little bit and get a larger piece. And those two trees are right next to each other. The one with the very long pieces, buds, and the one with the very short ones. So the one with the short buds, it thought it was spring later. It's only just started opening out. And the one with the long buds thought it was spring earlier. And that's because they're genetically different. They have genetic diversity, biodiversity. And having that biodiversity in these trees helps me out because it means that I have, if I miss the window, they're only good for maybe a week and then they're too big. If I miss the window on this tree, I can go pick this tree. Or if I'm going to be away the weekend that this tree comes out, I can, the weekend before, go pick this tree. And so that's pretty helpful. If we walk along here, we'll notice that each tree looks slightly different. This one has just smaller buds generally, actually. There's a comparison. This one just has like very long, lush foliage. And then this one has just small foliage, which is super interesting. There's also, if you see these weird brown things, holes in them, that's a bug lives inside there and makes those. I don't pick those ones. You can see that this one also has had that bug. But again, like this one, pretty small buds, pretty young. In fact, these are like completely perfect right now. Look at that. They're just little, very soft, not quite opened out, but they've shed their little bud tips, so they're easy to pick. That's completely perfect for right now. Hi, Thea. You're a good girl. You're so good. So there you see a bunch of biodiversity. There's differences in these trees and how they react. And for me, that's really great because it means that I have more flexibility. They'll react differently. And sometimes the circumstances that they react differently in are really helpful and good for me, like being able to pick the spruce buds over a longer period of time. Now, if I were trying to pick, like, if I had a machine and we're trying to pick all the spruce buds on the same day with some sort of machine in order to get them to a restaurant or to get them to a central shipping area, then I might have trouble. I would probably want all these trees to be the same so that I could come out here with the machine and just on one day I could take them all, and I wouldn't have to come out every day and collect my order and store some of my order in the fridge or whatever until I had enough and then got it together and gave it to a restaurant. So because that's how a lot of our farming works these days, we tend not to have biodiversity in our plants and seeds. We just don't go for that sort of thing because it makes using machines hard. It makes what they call efficiency hard. So in this case, efficiency means you only have to go out to the field once, so that's being efficient with people's use of time and use of machines. But for me, it's more efficient to not have to keep, if I were to get a giant batch of these, if I were to buy a giant batch, or if I were to pick them all at once, I wouldn't be able to process them all at once. And then I would have to put them in my fridge, maybe get an extra fridge if I were going to do that with a whole bunch of different things, and do my batches one at a time, and it wouldn't be very useful for me. So it's always good to ask, like, when we're designing these food systems, what are we designing them for? There's some neighbors going by with their boat. And anyhow, this system, where it's very biodiverse, works really well for me. And now I have some spruce tips, and I'm going to take them inside and make my spruce tip syrup. If you have a chance, if you're, everyone down south here, your spruce tips are long gone. It's been weeks, maybe even months since you've had spruce tips in a good, like very young spruce tips like this that you could eat. But maybe next year. Maybe next year. Just wanted to share that with you. And I think this is the first time we've harvested together. Hey, puppies. Hey, puppies. Oh, you're so good, but you don't get any spruce tips. You can pick your own spruce tips. They're right there. I can't pick from, like, below my knees, because they're all full of dog hair from the dogs walking through and brushing against them. See, like that. Dog hair. Yeah, Baloo. Okay, well, you all have a good afternoon. And maybe next year, go pick some spruce tips.